Over 5 years ago, Taurus came out with the TX22, which is a almost full-size double stack mag, 22 long rifle, handgun. And the remarkable thing about it was those magazines held 22 rounds of 22 long rifle, very similar to this one right here for the compact that we're going to discuss today. And what's really cool about it was at the time, you had another one of my favorites here, the Smith & Wesson 22 compact, and these held 10 rounds. And the majority of 22s, especially handguns at the time, were 10 round single stack type magazines like this. Ruger, Smith & Wesson, you name it, they had a 22. Usually it's about 10 rounds, which is kind of odd to think about. So the fact that Taurus came out with an affordable option for double stack is just a great kind of refresh to the market, even if it was over 5 years ago. So now, of course, a few years later, I've had this in for over a year now. Enter the Taurus TX22 compact, and this goes and takes everything they learned from the original TX22 and puts it into a more compact size, fits the hand better, almost the same size as that 22 compact from Smith & Wesson, and this thing just runs. Now, the unique thing about it was Taurus had this thing called the Toro, T-O-R-O, which is essentially optics ready type handgun. So the original TX22 didn't even have an optics ready type of plate on here, where this one does, and this one's cut for that RMSC cut there. And of course, this has the Riton micro red dot. Did a full review on this in the past, and this is still on its original battery, which is great. It fits right at home with this little TX22. And of course, it also has something else unique to it, where it does come with the adapter for a thread adapter on the end here for whatever you might want to throw on the end of your 22 pistol. Quick commercial break for you guys. This isn't really a sponsorship or anything like that. This is just really a short story. About a year ago, went to Palmetto State Armory, did a whole factory tour, did a series of videos on that, went to the headquarters, met up with the guys at Right to Bear, protectwithbear.com, and this is a criminal and civil defense insurance company. I never really thought about it. We insure a lot of things in our lives, and obviously we train and have a lot of fun with different things at the range and tools you might have in your waistband. So what I thought about it was that it's probably a good thing to have insurance if you end up having to use that tool that you're training with so often. So check them out. You can use the code GEAR10 to save you 10% off your membership, which is good because you get a kickback. I get a little kickback from that as an affiliate with them. And I also have Right to Bear as the insurance of my choice as well. Currently for the last year, haven't had to use it yet, but it's nice to know that safe of mind that if you call that number after something happens, that person on the line actually has your best interest in mind, which nowadays, you never know. All right, back to the range. Rail cut, of course, for lights and lasers and whatever you want on there. Also slide cut, so that Toro model that I mentioned earlier with the optics ready, they also had a competition that they had cuts done to it. Well, they put the cuts and the optics ready on here in the 22, which has been great because it's just a nice lightweight package. And of course, with that magazine, you have a nice polymer mag. It is all polymer with little grabbers on each side to help load, a little load assist there. And this one holds 13 rounds. You do get a couple of magazines with it, but the slide is very easy to manipulate. So think about what this is marketed for. It's really for someone learning to shoot, learning the fundamentals. And of course, 22 long rifle it's not a bad round. It's just kind of finicky, right? The ammo is just spread across the entire realm of good to bad or bad to good. Either way, you never really know what you're gonna get. So you might have a couple of jams here and there. This one seems to just run, but sometimes you do have some issues there, which is good for helping learn about clearing a malfunction and kind of the overall fundamentals of a handgun. This also has front serration cuts there and rear, very easy to manipulate even with a couple of fingers there. It does have ambi safety. You can see that right there, which is nice. It works. I mean, it's an ambi safety. It works pretty good, right? So you actually have the slide lock too as well, which is not ambi. Simple to activate. Again, I think it's really good for someone who is either new to shooting or maybe a kid or something where this is a good size for their hand. In fact, they have that finger groove cut on the actual grip there, which is a little bit small for my hands, but anyone with smaller hands, this would fit right at home. You have a flat front there, no serrations there, nice deep cut on that trigger guard there. You see that there helps really get a nice grip, a nice high grip on there. The trigger, it's fantastic. I mean, it really is. There's no real safety latch or anything on there. It really is just a great little trigger. And the handgun itself points really well. You can almost get a lower third co-witness almost with the iron sights that come with it. You do have a white dot up front and blacked out serrated rear, which is my preferred way to go. If anything, I would want a night sight up front, black serrations in the back, but this is pretty close with that white dot. And of course, those are the sights that come with as well. We talked about the optics ready already. This already comes optics ready, so you can just take the plate off, throw an RMSC cut optic on there, like this Riton on there. It has a very interesting hump on the back here that kind of fills your hand in pretty well. There's no real adjustment. There's no extra, back straps or anything like that you're kind of used to. But again, this is more of a budget option type of handgun and really more of an entry level model for someone who's looking for a 22. And it's not really something for maybe competition, but something for fun, learning the fundamentals of shooting, the safety aspect of it all, how to clear malfunctions, all of those fun stuff that you really want a new shooter to learn. Has some interesting cuts. Instead of finger pads, it does have some cuts in the frame directly that are kind of deep. They kind of just went ham on the design here. They're like, you know what we're gonna do? We'll cut the slides, we'll make some fun little cuts in there. It's a 22, it's not something you have to worry about a bunch of dirt and mud getting in there. There's no real ejection port to kind of, or any port in the top here to kind of see if there's any kind of shell in there, anything like that. You just kind of have to look, but so that actually helps because a lot of guns nowadays have a little port on the top that ends up kind of getting this all guns cut pretty good. But 22 is can be kind of dirty anyway, so you do have to clean that lens off if you are going to run it with an optic on there. Now I'll show you a quick takedown of this particular handgun. Now YouTube, if you're watching, this is just for strictly maintenance and potentially cleaning this handgun. So what you have to do, drop your mag, check, make sure nothing is in the chamber. Good to go. You don't want to pull that trigger. You'll see a tab on each side right here. That whole bar actually pulls down. And you can loosen this up a little bit if you want, pull the slide back, but really pull the tab down, push forward about 1/4 of an inch, and then pull straight up. And then your slide comes off of your frame. It does have an interesting block covering the trigger mechanism there. All right, and then of course in here you have your recoil spring. And you kind of see it is just slightly elevated. I can't pull the barrel all the way out, and that's because the thread adapter on the end here, which does have flats on 2 sides, which is the ideal setup to get one of these off, is blocking it from being removed. So if you ever want to clean this, you will need to remove that or just tip it up and you can run some cleaning patches through the barrel there. Reassembly is fairly straightforward. Lock it in like so, like that, and then putting it back on your frame. Same way you did before, you're gonna wanna drop it down and put a little bit of pressure with that 1/4 inch on the back there, and then simply rack the slide like so. Looking at these two handguns, these are pretty much the direct competitor of each other in a way, because this is a compact, this is a compact, and they're designed to be more for a little bit smaller hands, but still very functional. I've loved this little thing. I've actually had never had a single malfunction with this handgun. I think this one had a few over the course of fire, just kind of messing with it, testing it out over the last year or so. But the coolest part is really the size. I mean, the size is very similar, but that Taurus is going to be a little bit thicker. You can kind of see right there, and that's because of that double stack. So you get a few more rounds than you do with this Smith & Wesson, but these are very similar size, whereas the TX22 is going to be a little bit bigger, and then I think Smith & Wesson did make a full-size 22 as well for this. But with that in mind, these are kind of competitors of each other right here. This, of course, never really came with an optic. I don't know if they ever actually made one with an optics ready on there. They might at one point, but I never picked it up. And then the trigger, I would say I think the trigger is a little bit nicer on the Taurus. It's definitely a little bit beefier. You can kind of see that, where this is a typical M&P style of trigger there. Like so. Sights are also a little bit nicer, a little bit more modern on the Taurus as well, compared to these little adjustment sights with the screw and all that, which mechanical wise, I just don't think you need with this type of handgun, this being a 22 here. I think just the standard sights you'd see on any other handgun works just fine. And of course, this did not come with a thread adapter. I did a whole video because to remove the stopper, that's the cover really, that's covering the threads on here, was a huge deal, and you had to get the separate adapter to buy. And now, of course, you have this one that comes in the box. That about wraps this video up, I think, on the Taurus TX22 Compact. It is a fun little plinker, it really is. I think Taurus really hit it out of the park and just added a bunch of features they didn't really have to add to it, but they did anyways. They combined their competition model with their Toro optics ready type models and just threw it all into a little bit smaller package. And this thing has run great over the last year or so, and it will hopefully continue to run great. I'll still run it at the range. And also I threw a light on at one point, as well as the can on there. And it's just a blast. It really is. I think if you don't have a 22 pistol, it might be one of the first ones you might want to get, because it's a good way to start a shooter who never really has shot in anything, especially from a handgun perspective. Get them on something that's a little bit easier to manage, something where they can fit their hand around nicer, and it fills the hand up a little bit more, even more so than any of the old Rugers or the Smith & Wesson 22 Compact there. This just fills your hand up and gets you better control of the handgun, which is a great way to kind of get them to learn more about the grip and how it feels. And it just has some nice features on there, and as well as the fact that you can throw a red dot on there, which not all 22s have the capacity to throw a red dot on there. So it's nice to see that that is pretty easy to do. And of course, you might not need a light or a laser, but if you do, it's always the option there. So that's always good. And this just looks more tactical than a lot of the other 22s out there, which again, helps with that training, kind of get you up to that next level if you're looking to do so. So thanks so much for watching, guys. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button down there. It really helps me out. If you have any questions at all about the TX22 Compact or the TX22, which I've also shot before at different range days, or that Smith & Wesson 22 Compact, hit them down in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. And as always, make sure you train hard. You never know what's coming, and we'll see you in the next review.